garden friends. I'm back. I'm here in front of the kitchen view garden and wanted to give you a quick update on how this has changed since the last time I showed you this area. As you can see, it's looking a little bit different and hopefully a lot better than it did before. It was kind of a mishmash of weeds and plants that were kind of thrown together, and I was partway through digging it out when I last showed you it. But now I've completely digged it out and replanted a bunch of stuff and brought some new stuff in, and I'm excited to show you. Before we start, be sure to say hello, Susie. Susie's been following me around all morning on my farm chores, so she's going to join us for this video. Looking back up at the kitchen view garden, again, this is pretty much what I see outside when I look outside my kitchen window. And so I wanted to make this space look nicer. As you can see down here, this hasn't changed much. I do need to cut this all back, and we'll probably do that this week. Cut it all back to the ground with the exception of the Annabelle hydrangea right in the middle, which I will trim back. I'll trim off the heads, the flower heads, and then leave the rest of the bush there. But all of this is going to get trimmed right down to the ground. I had mentioned in a previous video that I need to redo this bed, and that is still my intention. I don't want to do it right now, however. It being so late in the season and the ground is going to start, freezing, I don't want to dig this all out and have bare soil here all winter. So I'm going to cut this to the ground, and then in the spring when things thaw, I will dig this out, and by then I will have hopefully decided what I'm going to put in here so that I can get it planted right away and not have bare soil sitting around. But let's take a walk up above and I'll show you what's changed. The biggest thing you'll notice right away is it seems a lot more open, a lot more bare soil. And it's somewhat misleading because there are a bunch of perennials in certain areas that I've stuffed in here, but they have died back, so you don't see them. But there is definitely a large amount of bare space that I will fill in next year with a lot of the perennials that I dug out and put in the vegetable garden, and then some new ones. I still am struggling a bit to figure out what to put in here, especially this bed, this section of the bed here, because I want it to look good from the kitchen, but I also have to be cognizant of the fact that this starts down at this end in full sun, transitions to part sun, and then to shade down where the Solomon seal still sticks up down there. So it's a bit tricky, but I'm sure I'll come up with something. So what I did with this soil, the reason why it looks so brown right now, after I cleaned everything up and planted all that I wanted to plant, I shredded leaves that were here and put them down, and then put compost on top of that, and then had a pile, an old pile of bark mulch that has broken down pretty well, actually. It's almost compost. And I spread that on top in the hopes of trying to keep everything, all the soil in place over the winter. Especially since we have the plastic up here, there's going to be more water runoff from this hill down into the garden. So I'm hoping to stabilize the soil over winter. And yeah, that was my intent there. So let's start in this lower bed. As if you recall, I had planted some nepeta along the edge here all the way up next to what will be a better defined path that leads to the staircase. So that comes down here, and then right in the front of the wall I planted a number of daylilies, and then another little patch of nepeta, some more daylilies, and then I'll show you further on what else I planted along the edge. Back here I stuck in a green velvet boxwood. There are more green velvet boxwoods along the back edge of this garden that will be trained into a low hedge to divide it from the upper barn garden once that gets put in, and there's a path in between the two. And actually I put another green velvet on that corner, which again will flank either side of a path to be further defined next year. But I had an extra boxwood and I thought I'd put it here, and I can prune it into a fun little shape viewable from the kitchen garden. Next to it, I found this cute little spirea. It's called Double Play Artisan from Proven Winners, and it's short, and it has these, has this burgundy tinge to the leaves this time of year, and pink flowers. And it was just so adorable, I had to have it, so I put it here. It's going to stay small, maybe 2.5 feet tall and as wide. So it's perfect for this where I want lower growing shrubs that won't block the view of the materials above. So let's walk further down here. It's mostly just mulch, and past this, past the daylilies and the nepeta. There's another daylily in there buried under the mulch. And then I put in some more lady's mantle that I divided up from plants I had. There is a little patch of, shoot, can't remember the name of it. I'll come back to it and put it in the video. It's a ground cover. And then back to the anemones that I had planted earlier in the year. Up here I stuffed a few foxglove seedlings as well as Jacob's ladder seedlings that had seeded themselves all over from the lower shade garden. And those are just tucked in there, and we'll see what happens with those. Up here on the top level of the garden, there are a bunch of new plants that I want to show you. It's pretty exciting. So we'll start here at the edge with the nepeta along the edge, and then come in, and we have 3 of these Hydrangea paniculata fire and ice. I may have shown these to you before, I'm not sure. But these form lovely like cone-shaped flower heads that have almost a lace cap quality to them, but they're in like the panicle hydrangea shape. And they do turn pink as the season progresses. Unfortunately, can't really show you that right now because they are definitely in winter mode, and I'll trim these heads off before winter. Along the back again, we have these green velvet boxwoods that will get a good haircut come spring, and hopefully start to form a low hedge that will divide this garden from the garden up here. And in between, along here, there will be a pathway that is definitely a spring project. Moving further on, this plant, I'm very excited about it. This is a Mount Airy Fothergilla, and it gets about 4 to 6 feet tall and wide. It's supposed to be a dwarf Fothergilla, so it'll stay fairly compact. And normally its foliage is fairly green. And it has white, like pincushion flowers, like these fuzzy white flowers in the spring. And it's a good pollinator plant. But what I really love about it, and didn't really understand when I read the tag, was it has this incredible fall color. It's the whole rainbow of red, orange, yellow, purple, green, and it's just gorgeous. So I'm very excited about this plant. Next to that is something I've been wanting in my garden for a while and couldn't wait to get one, and I will probably put more. But this is a sky pencil holly, Ilex crenata sky pencil, and it'll grow like 6 to 10 feet tall, but you can prune it and keep it more compact. The reason I put it here is from the kitchen. It lines up pretty well, not showing it here in this shot, but it lines up pretty well with the corner of the barn and adds a really nice vertical element to this garden. And I love it. I think it's adorable. Next to that is the Twist and Shout hydrangea that I showed you in a previous video that had the green foliage that was tinged with shades of maroon, and had the flat-headed pink flowers that could tend to go blue-ish, more periwinkle, if the soil is acidic enough, and it may be here. New Hampshire has very acidic soils generally. I'm just not sure if the amendments I've added to this garden have tended to push the pH back up toward the neutral range, but we'll see in the spring or summer, early summer, when it blooms, and yeah, see how that works out. I stuffed in along the front of the bed, or what will be the front of the bed, along the path, some hardy geraniums. These are low-growing geraniums that have bright fuchsia flowers. Don't look like much now because they are definitely in winter mode and I have to cut them back a little bit. But next spring they'll be a nice little ground cover here. And then I stuffed in some plain green-leaved hostas in here to fill the space in between these two. And then we come over to this one, which I am super excited about, really excited about. This is called Coast Leucothe, or Leucotho, and I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, but I will put the name down below. And it is just simply stunning. The foliage is like this all the time, apparently. And it's so cool. And it has little white flowers on the ends of the branches in spring. And I'm just so excited to see how this develops and grows and fits in with this garden. It tends to stay short, but it will spread 4 to 6 feet or so. And yeah, it's just a really exciting addition to the garden. Behind it and alongside it, I put in some ajuga, and as well as some foxglove seedlings that I had. I've got a ton of foxglove seedlings. And then we reach the rhododendron dark lord, the dark maroon flowers with the white stamens that I think I've mentioned before. And then back into the rest of the shade garden. Dividing the two sections of the kitchen view garden is this low rock wall all the way across, and Susie has moved in and found a hole that she dug. Anyway, so I put these rocks in here so that I could build up the bed behind it to be a little more level, almost a mini terrace, terracing of the garden, because as you can see, I guess from this camera angle, there is quite a slope here. So water does tend to run downhill, and you get erosion in this garden, definitely, and especially since I put this plastic on, lots more water. Once I plant this section up next spring, it'll definitely help, and most of the runoff will get absorbed by the open ground, and the pathway that I'll put in that will have gravel and good drainage. But for now, this terracing is going to help keep the soil here over the winter, and it actually just looks really pretty. We have so many rocks here in New Hampshire, and when we dug out the barn foundation, we gained a whole lot more rocks. So I've been finding new uses for rocks all over the place. These rocks, they look kind of pale right now, but that's really because they're dusty. They still have dirt on them from being underground, and it hasn't rained much at all. It's actually kind of scary how little rain we've had recently. As the weather, continues, the winter continues, these will lose their dusty covering and they will gray up a little bit and look more like they've been here for a while. Oh, Susie, what are you doing? Susie, no. Come here, you little nut. One theme that I sort of inadvertently managed to put in this garden without really trying is a lot of these plants have shades of pink and or maroon, reddish tones to them, along with the green. And it's funny how that works out because, we have a red barn and there's lots of green around. And so the foliage of a lot of these plants, the Leucothe the fall version of the Fothergilla, the two types of hydrangeas, which tend to go pink as the season goes on, and the spirea with the maroon tinged foliage and the pink flowers. All of them sort of relate to each other. And I didn't really plan that. I just picked stuff that I liked and that would work in the sun conditions that I needed. But I will pretend that this was an actual design choice and run with it. I like it so far. Now I just need to figure out what to put in this lower space, the blank space, to kind of continue that theme, and then maybe carry that down into this lower part of the garden. If you all have any suggestions, I'd be more than happy to hear them. I always struggle with plant picks, so I'd love to hear from people about what they think. Well, that's the latest from the Kitchen View Garden. I hope you enjoyed the tour. I'm pretty excited about this and how it's going to develop over the next year or so as I stuff more perennials in and really develop the upper part of the garden as well. I think it's going to be gorgeous. I have to get a handle on this unruly mess, however, and I think that's what I'm going to tackle next, now that it's pretty well dead and it's November, so I need to get going on that. Thank you for joining me. I hope you come back and watch more videos of my gardens and the farm, and I appreciate that you're here. Thank you. Bye.